Hey, folks, good evening, and thanks for joining me on Phantoms and Monsters Radio. I welcome all new listeners and members to the channel, as well as first-timers in the chat. Tonight, we're going to do something a little bit different, maybe a lot different. But anyway, I'll explain to you in a second. Now, some of you may remember when I described my abduction in December of 2015. And my subsequent encounter with the three tall beings at an unknown location, possibly a craft, and I think it was a craft. The three beings showed me, or what I interpreted as, otherworldly entities coming to Earth, landing a massive circular craft in the area of the Nile Delta, and expanding into various civilizations, conveying their knowledge and influence over multiple millennia. Now, the civilization that these three beings seemed the most interested in showing me was ancient Egypt, around the time of Amenhotep III's reign during the 18th Dynasty. Now, the scenario seemed to suggest that there was a profound sighting of a large bright disk in the sky. The priests refused to interpret the sighting, but Amenhotep and his advisors believed it to be a god or divine deity. Years later, his son, Amenhotep IV, later known as Akhnaten, determined this UAP was the sun god Aten. This resulted in his decree that the official Egyptian religion would be based on worshiping the one god Aten and beginning of monotheism. Now, since my abduction, I've been fascinated with world religions and interpretations, in particular, ancient beliefs and how these beliefs manifested. So this evening, I would like to discuss, along with input from the chat audience, the subject of extraterrestrial influence on man's beliefs, customs, and religion. So please write your comments or questions in caps. You can post these thoughts at any time, and we'll attempt to conduct the discussion as seamlessly as possible. So I appreciate your cooperation. So before I go any further, I just want to mention that this channel is made possible by clicking on the subscribe and like buttons and by sharing our programming. If you're watching us on YouTube, Super Chat and Super Thanks donations are appreciated. You can click the dollar icon located below the chat box. Other donation links are also shown in the description, so thanks for your consideration. Now, your comments are always welcome. Tell me which accounts you found interesting in the presentation or suggestions for upcoming shows. I want to thank our chat moderators, Bernadette, Marla, Thomas, and Mike, as well as Kevin and Mary at ESP. Now, if you're in the chat and you have the question, please use all caps, and I'll try to get to each one of these during the presentation. And we're going to try to do this interactively. So you know the subject is basically extraterrestrials and if they influenced the beliefs of man. But I guess the first question you almost have to ask is, who or what created God? Now, there's a lot of philosophical perspectives of this, as well as other types of theological perspectives, as well as maybe a scientific perspective. So as we go on, I'm going to bring up a few things as people bring questions out. So if you do have questions, please post them and on the chat, and Kevin will bring them up for me, or unless I see them up on there. So if you can start right now. But is there anything that you'd like to maybe suggest your thoughts on the extraterrestrials possibly influencing how man chose what to have faith in, what to believe, his customs, and so forth and so on? Did they, like I was shown in the in my abduction scenario, did they literally come to Earth as beings, integrate with the civilizations and the people around them, and kind of steer their thoughts? Now, Sir Wolf had up here, do you think they're indigenous to the planet, solar system, and use our beliefs against us? Well, do you believe that? It's not all questions. You can put comments up here as well. I don't know if they're indigenous to the planet. I don't think they are. I think they did come here at some time, many times actually, possibly eons ago. I mean, we have really no idea how long it was. Of course, you heard about the Nephilim and through this the Mesopotamian and those civilizations in that area, possibly being some type of winged deity that were actually gods themselves. And I guess you got to think, was God the same God that the Sumerians had? Or even, say, the God of Jesus, the God of Christians, the Almighty God? Is he the same God as Yahweh? Were they different gods? There's really no way of even knowing that. If you have ever read the Gnostic scriptures, they seem to disagree. They seem to think they were possibly extraterrestrials or some other type of being. So let me start bringing some of this up here. Paranormalism Net, do you think they intentionally push society toward monotheism? The scenario I was shown, now, of course, Hebrews had so-called Yahweh and the one God. And that was probably where monotheism started, but we have no way of knowing that. Did it start earlier on? But, the fact that, or maybe the legend that Amenhotep and his son and his advisors saw the disc in the sky, believing that it was the one God, that's kind of where it started. Of course, 18 years later, after the death of Amenhotep IV or Akhnaten, Egypt went back to the multiple god, the polytheism of the old religions. Paranormalism Net asks, do you think they intentionally push towards society toward theism, monotheism? I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible. But, let's say that Yahweh or even Sirius, the Sirius, the god, or Aten, the god, it was an extraterrestrial. Do you think they may have pushed man to believe in one God, and that God, their God, was the one who created the universe? And that maybe, is that same God still the God of all humanity? I don't know if you're able to say that or not. Now, Marla Snyder asked, thoughts on the Nazca lines and other petroglyphs resembling UFO and alien beings? Well, if you just look at the Nazca lines and all the designs of animals or other beings or symbols of their religion, it's really hard to believe that there was not something above that actually directing the formation of those lines, the formation of those graphics or those glyphs. It's you would have to think that there had to be something doing that. How else would they have done it if something wasn't watching from above? I mean, what do you think? If you have comments, put it up there. Kevin asked us, so I believe that they were trying to guide us, and then it got twisted to form control from man, not the ETs. Their goal was see we're energy, frequency, and be of light. We become what we seek. Well, that's an interesting thought. Jose Sanchez asked, Jesus was considered an alien at one point when he had come to save mankind. If you think about it, he'd be the only one with such power to do just that. Yeah, it's interesting. If you're familiar with the New Testament, in particular the Gospel of Thomas, which is not in the Bible, or some of the other Gospels that were left out are in the Gnostic text, they do kind of suggest that the God of Jesus, who Jesus referred to in Aramaic as Abba, which actually means Father. If that was the same God as Yahweh, if that was the same being as Yahweh, have you ever read in the Bible where Jesus even mentioned the name Yahweh? Was the fact that he considered himself to be, I guess, the God, or part of a God, that really upset the Hebrews, and particularly the Sanhedrin and the Pharisees. Was that the reason for condemning him to death or to stopping him? Jesus was not the only Messiah figure. There were some before and a few after. But, of course, his movement became more stable, and, of course, his disciples went out and the apostles went out and started spreading the religion. And in fact, if you look through history, many of the Roman soldiers in Judea at the time did start believing in Christianity. And it did eventually spread. Of course, it spread in through all of the Middle East and up into Europe eventually. Barbara Mora. In my honest opinion, everyone was stardust, even ETs and Anunnaki. There are millions of planets that have life no matter what form. And I do believe that as well. I absolutely do believe it. Um, we really don't know if that is fact, but if you do kind of extrapolate the evidence and the theory, there had to be something to that. Uh, Now, of course, I'm not trying to start a religious war here, but there are many believers that believe that the God or God Himself or God itself kind of snapped His fingers and over time, created all these, created the Earth, created the planets, created the universe and everything in it. So it's a matter of interpretation, a matter of belief, and but I'm really interested in really finding what you think about uh, if these so-called gods are what the Gnostics called the Demerge, as far as Yahweh and His beings around Him, the archons, if they actually He created, if He created the planet, created Earth, created man, but did it in such a fashion that was he creating a prison planet type of situation? I mean, if you look through the Old Testament, Yahweh was very rarely a compassionate being. I mean, the blood spilled in the name of Yahweh, and then just like uh, destroying man and starting all over again with the animals and a few humans. I mean, but when you see that, if you think about that, then think about the New Testament. Even in Islam, in the Quran, they don't really talk about either God or Allah as being a a being or deity of destruction. What do you think, folks? Moondogs, have you watched Stephen Greer's documentary? No, I haven't. No, I haven't. Barbara Mora, planet Earth has all the ingredients to develop the life on the planet. Well, yeah, if you believe in the theory of panspermia and the elements and everything that was transferred to Earth through billions and billions of years, and that's how life was created. How many extinctions have we gone through? I mean, I think they estimate 6 or 7 extinctions. That life really had to recreate itself to a point uh, that many times. Sir Wolf, are they ceding us their tech to advance us to such an extent? Transhumanism, easily controlled, the loss of our soul, wickedness in high places. Okay, this is a bit woo, but hey, you do think about that. Um, I believe that it's a distinct possibility that that is what happened. Regardless of, yeah, that's right. All the ingredients in life are absolutely. I'm looking at the question again. To advance it to such an extent, transhumanism, seeding tech. You know, if you just think about even in recent times, I mean, within the last 100 years, how far has technology advanced in just that small period of time? I mean, are we being given more and more as we go forward, or are humans advanced so much that they're able to at now bring this type of technology to the forefront and develop it their own. But are they getting help as well? Walter Clown, the law of one, aka the raw material, has some interesting theories too, and yes, they do. And I have read some of that, and I guess it all depends on what everybody reads and what they can understand and what they can rationally believe in. But come on, folks, give me your thoughts. I'll read them out here and let everybody try to understand what you're trying to put forth. Barbara Moore. It did develop slowly, but eventually it was helped by ETs to form into thinking problem-solving human. We are a thinking problem-solving human we are now. Absolutely. But how much have they actually influenced us? I mean, in what degree? Was it at the point where, like many people do believe, that these beings came to Earth, met with those of power, had even conducted diplomacy of some type, got technology from them to a point where they can start to work upon that? What do you think? Sir Wolf, are there different factions, good and bad, to what end? True. Kevin says, I think he was misunderstood trying to say, be of the light, we all are, and you find the power of God within. Exactly. When these questions come up, please feel free to put what you believe, your answers, and your comments, and I'll read them as go. Paranormalism Net. Have they been trying to teach us things for our own good or to manipulate us? Or do different races of these beings have their own agenda? That's something I have thought about as well. I just look at my experience. Those three beings who tried to show me their interpretation of what had actually happened through that period of time in history. That's why I became so fascinated after my incident. I mean, were we really influenced enough to start believing in what they had been, or what these beings had been trying to put forth to us? I mean, I think there's a lot to that. I know one thing, and I have said this before. Now, David Eckhart had been involved with the reptilians for all that period of time, and he had met them, and he went through lots of abduction scenarios. He had been at their locations and such. But when they did tell him, and I found this fascinating, I had it in my book as well, that these extraterrestrials or these alien beings, they do believe in a higher deity. They believe in a supreme being as well. Now, who that is or what that is, I have no idea. Is it just energy, or is it a living being? I don't know. They never explained that to David, but they seem to all follow. Even different species of aliens seem to follow one being. Now, I'm quite sure there are others out there that follow others. But you got to wonder how much of that was put upon man as man developed. Were we even part of a hybrid type of situation where what was here was mixed with what came here and has resulted through evolution as what we're at now? Can Squatch. If we're living in a holographic universe, the aliens have a creator. Not sure if that's a god. That's true too. I agree with that. Mortal clown. Religion's a drop of water compared to the cosmos of spirituality. Yeah, and I expect that from you. But honestly, that makes a lot of sense. Um, Spirituality is very, very strong, and and for those lucky enough to have abilities to discern spirituality as, I mean, instead of, I don't know, taking blind, and I hate saying this, but taking blind uh, reliability into what religion teaches you or others teach you. I think each person develops their own type of spirituality and beliefs. I know I have. Uh, I know Mortal Clown has. I know others who I've talked to, others in my team believe differently. But I think everybody has their own form of faith. And that's basically all it is, faith, what you believe in. Let's see. Daniel Crook has in here. I'm curious what your worldview is considering your experience's interest if it's not too personal. Let's see. Well, I don't necessarily believe in religion, though I'm fascinated by religions. I've looked at all different types. I've looked at the beliefs. I've looked at the text. You know what? I just know that because of my abilities, I do have a certain spirituality that I believe that I can count on. Now, that being said, is it the same as what others would believe if they believed in Almighty God or Jesus or Yahweh or whoever or Allah? Is it the same? Or is it just a more organized type of belief system? Kevin Emery, look how many sons of God stories we have across our religions. It is the interpretation of people and interpretations by their experience of time. Technically, we created ourselves. And to a point, I believe that. You know, I have been involved with, which I guess you would call it mysticism. Um, I've, I've looked into a lot of different beliefs, personal beliefs of certain people like John Dee and Thomas Aquinas and those individuals. They they and at the time they couldn't really say but so much because of what they would you know um, talking against the church was kind of a bad thing back then. People were burned at the stake. People were executed because of what they're just their thoughts. I mean, fortunately now we can put out there what we do believe. I don't advocate pushing your religion or pushing your beliefs on anyone else. That's why I wanted to do this tonight, because I want people to tell me what they thought and what we have gone through over time and what we can expect to go through as time goes on. Daniel Crook, Archons, Yahweh, and the Gnostic soul trappy stuff scares me. Yeah, well, it's some pretty heady stuff. I mean, the Gnostic texts were not found. Was it 1947 they were found? But anyway, they were. It was an entirely different system of belief, but it kind of did match with the belief of Jesus that wasn't really pushed. I mean, we 2,000 years ago, if you believe in Jesus Christ, I mean, if he was on this earth and he was teaching and he was interacting with his disciples and other people, um, did that become the Gnostic text? Mortal Clown, anyone else having ramped up spiritual paranormal events? Well, I will say that it has been very, very busy the past couple months. Um, I've had people contacting me for all kinds of different things that I don't normally get, uh, including intense paranormal activity, uh, unexplained activity that just doesn't always raise its head. I mean, it's been interesting. Are we going into an age now? I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think we're going into an era now where we may have to start looking for other signs to interpret our life in the future? Steve C. I had an attempted abduction stop when I called the name of Jesus. It could be that the beings just didn't want to get preached to, but it makes me wonder. You know, I have had a lot of experiencers tell me the same thing. I guess anybody who has a very deep belief, deep faith in a certain creator or certain deity, if they if they're if they can project that at a time where it's needed, like during an abduction, do those aliens or do those extraterrestrials pick up on that? Is there something about what they say that creates fear, creates pessimism in these beings? Can Squatch, Book of Enoch is interesting take on God. Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate when with Nicaea and how many books of the Bible were removed. Um, there's just a lot there that we really, and I think there's more out there that we never really got to see. That has never really come to light. Mortal Clown. Moses got advice from dark forces after his initial contact with oneness. Well, the Gnostic texts basically say the same thing. Even to the point where Yahweh or Demerge was possibly interpreted by others as being the devil, the demon, Lucifer. I mean, who's to say that these gods, Yahweh, or even God, don't mighty Abba or Allah, are not extraterrestrials that still have an agenda? Mortal Clown, do you think there's an advanced benevolent confederation at dark side conflict with them? You know, I really don't know. Um, I know a lot of people believe in that. I really do. You know, I have had some kind of offhand experience with what was presented to me and to David and others as the Council of Five, but we really don't know what that was. Is it some type of confederation? I don't know. it's interesting that I know that from the experiences I have talked to and written about, many of them tell me that there's different races or different uh, species of alien beings, even humans, that are involved with a lot of the abductions and the other encounters as well. I mean, is there a confederation? Is there something where they come together? I don't know. Robo 1776, and thank you for the donation. My instinct tells me that cumulative paranormal angels, cryptids, etc., have a high level of interaction on the physical world. Nothing seems to be curtailing their presence. Thoughts? Um, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, look at me. I hear these accounts all the time from people. What do I believe? I don't know. It's you really don't know what to believe. But I do believe that there is a connection between all these beings. Uh, to what degree? I guess we really don't know. I believe angels are extraterrestrials. I have thought for a long time that they're extraterrestrial beings. Real truth. I believe in the 26,000 year cycles, and we're going into the 13,000 year positive cycle. Well, I hope you're right. If we are going through 13 years, and we really don't have nothing to worry about, but I don't know. Barumora, guidance but not direct involvement. True. Maybe we are just being guided. If you do go through all the different types of abduction scenarios and counter scenarios, what people tell us that have been told are, what has been presented to researchers and investigators over the years. It's a mishmash of different thoughts and different philosophies, and as well as interacted with technology. You don't know what to believe, but I think each and every one of them are trying to guide us. Now, do I believe that these extraterrestrial or celestial beings have overall a malevolent agenda? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there is some level of benevolence there. Now, but I think maybe in the past there may very well have been what people call the prison planet, or that they were trying to control humans as slaves or other beings as our minions. Um, I don't really know if that's true now, but Jose Sanchez, taking into account the repeated extermination theory, what do you think about the Mars version of when mankind made a mass exodus from possible nuclear holocaust to our now present Earth? Uh, I haven't really thought too deeply on that. I mean, if you want to expound on that, I'd be more than welcome to talk about it. But that's a little far fetched for me, though. Who knows? This is why we're doing this tonight, folks. Get your thoughts out there. What did the being show you? Well, again, what I told you, and let me pull it up here again. When I was, they basically showed me that a large circular craft, huge craft, landed in the area around the Nile Delta, and that base of operations expanded into the various civilizations, and they did convey their knowledge and influence over multiple millennia. Now, this was their interpretation. This is what I got from it. And I told you about their concentration on ancient Egypt and with the sun disk and the Aten, and then the official religion being chained to a monotheist um, worship of the Aten. Of course, again, like I said, when Akhnaten died, that was uh, that was eliminated very quickly. But I do believe that they were trying to tell me that the Aten, or what they interpreted as the Aten or the sun disk, was a UFO or a UAP or some type of celestial craft. Um, I mean, you take that for any way you want to, but I believe, I mean, that's what they showed me, and that's what I took from it. And when that happened, when I was given that knowledge, I guess, of what they're trying to tell me, I was um, I was fascinated, and I wanted to learn more. Why they showed it to me, I don't know. Have others been shown the same thing? I'm quite sure they have. Paranormalism Net. Were there three beings from the same place as those encountered by David Eckhart? No. David never mentioned anything about the three tall whites or grays. I call them the three tall grays. People call them the tall whites. Um, David never mentioned that to me. Now, was I contacted because of my work with David? I think that's very possible. Oh, by the way, Mortal Clown, thank you for your donation. Um, and David told me, he told me for a long time before I had that encounter that I would be meeting them. So I don't know. This is why I kind of hesitate in stating a lot of this. All I can do is give you my thoughts on what was shown to me, and present it for whoever wants to listen, and we'll go from there. Okay. Any more? Sir Wolf. If they're self-replicating von Neumann probes crafts looking for life and study it, their own civilization might be perished eons ago. Maybe their software is failing and corrupted, so no answers. Well, I think, and I have said this before too, I think many of them have evolved from us. And I think many of them are coming back from time, from another period of time, and that they are time travelers, and uh, they're studying us to learn what maybe they did not, or what they lost over all that period of time. Um, I said before that I believe many times these abductions are the result of them trying to uh, garner or retake that belief in the afterlife, or reincarnation, or the type of psychic abilities that humans do have, because every human has some type of intuition or psychic ability, and I don't think that they do, and I think they lost that ability, and I think they're trying to find it again. Moondogs. I do not believe in organized religion, but maybe some truths to find in the religious texts. Yeah, I don't really believe in organized religion either. Even though I was brought up as a Lutheran, and you know had to go to church every week and the whole 9 yards, catechism, and But as time has gone on, I have changed my thoughts on that because I've seen basically what organized religion can do, and organized religion, for the most part, has not been helpful. We've had a lot of wars and a lot of conflict and strife because of organized religion. Sir Wolf, the spirit soul is not necessarily connected to these beings. That's a question. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, maybe they kind of seeded us, and then we expanded on that and formed our own thoughts on what we should or should not believe, and what kind of customs, and King Jicon Titanus. Massive respect to you, Lon. If I could bug you for more aquatic ocean cryptids, they are my favorite by far, and I have some independent interviews about it. Okay, I will do that. I thank you, and I did get your comment on the channel, so I will take that in consideration. Whenever I can get enough that I can put a show together, I will do that. Barbara Mora, some guidance from the gods are higher thinking things, but we create our civilization beliefs within our own culture, within any culture that has gone lived. Yeah, I mean, history has a lot of effect on beliefs. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Maybe much less so now than it used to be, but I go back and go back to something that happened in history, and try to comprehend what it meant. Did it have some effect on religion? Did it have some effect on custom? Any more thoughts, people? Barbara Mora. Some guidance from the gods are higher thinking beings, but we create our civilization. Oh, I just had that. Okay. Sir Wolf, the Demiurge was a flawed god, but not the god above God, where perhaps Jesus came from. And that's exactly what the Gnostic texts interpret as, that the Demiurge, or Yahweh, was not a good guy. And if you go back and read the Old Testament, you can see a lot to indicate that may very well be true. Sharon Sunshine, I have a deep personal belief in God and Jesus. Nothing can change that, and I recognize that absolutely. I have a lot of friends and associates who are the same way. They have their own beliefs, and I have no way, or have no inclination to even change that. Kevin Emery, the sun's sending out light language signals, waking us up. That's why governments are trying to block it out. It's a dimensional communication device of frequency. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Robo 1776. My instincts tell me that cumulative, and I think I already mentioned this. Any more comments, people? Barbara Moore, could it be due to different planes of existence? They have the ability to travel between these planes. Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with that. I mean, I particularly don't believe that there's one universe. I think there are many universes. Who's to say these other beings don't come from other universes? Mortal Clown, I take pics of Palo Santo smoke, and these great faces are coming in. It's not pareidolia. Lon has seen them, and I have. They are very interesting. They are very interesting. You used to get a lot of orbs too. Sharon Sunshine, I used to believe that angels were aliens, etc., many years ago, but now, no. I feel it's more spiritual in nature, with all due respect to everyone. well, you're entitled to your thoughts and your beliefs. Absolutely. My experience with angels has been somewhat different, and I know several remote viewers who have been in contact with angels, and from all indication I have gotten from their sessions, they do seem to be extraterrestrial and not really a spiritual being. But that's just my interpretation, their interpretation. Moondogs wonder if the U.S. government might be behind the abductions that are the sinister sort. Who knows? There's a lot of people believe that. Uh, they believe that the deep underground military bases are all part of that, and that many abductions are conducted by world governments. And I can't really say either way. It might very well be true. Rhyme. The beings I saw were surprised that I saw them and phased out. Didn't look like typical grays, were probably 5, 6 foot tall, more peach color in skin color. There are all types. They really are all types. Like I said, I've only seen the three that I have seen. I mean, during my many encounters, and I had one abduction. I had other encounters at home with the same beings. I hear a variety of shapes and sizes and mannerisms of these supposed otherworldly beings. Mortal Clown, what's the most credible abduction experience in your opinion, Lon? Oh, um, I don't know. I have written about a few in particular. The one, and you're familiar with the one with Mandy, the woman who was abducted and was never came back, never found or anything. I find that to be very compelling. I also find the Todd C's abduction or supposed abduction. I believe that really happened, and I think as time has gone on, and the evidence that I have recently come across with the individual who had passed away and saw the UFO years ago when that happened, and did mention it, and his wife told their son. His son contacted me. I'm hoping we're going to get more evidence like that. I believe there's something about the Todd C's incident that's very compelling. There have been others, but for me, those are the two that I really find compelling, as well as mine. I mean, I believe, of course, I'm not saying that mine was that dramatic, but it was, to me, it was very compelling. Living deep mind, do you think they can manipulate time and change our history through technology in their present time? I believe so. I do believe that. God knows. I mean, God knows. Nobody knows what degree their technology encompasses. Um, if that is the case, then we've got a lot to learn. Ryan, at Marla Snyder, I had missing time in 2021. Saw a light, got up to check it out, went down the hall, didn't see anything, got back to bed. It was 45 minutes. Yeah, the lost time is usually a big part of a lot of these, even minor encounters. Um, my encounter lasted, from what I could determine, about 5 or 6 hours. Um, Barbara Mora, thank you for your donation. Much appreciated. I I do appreciate it. Now, as we're getting close to the end here now. Let me ask you this: Now, this type of format, do you think we should occasionally do the same thing every once in a great, not maybe every couple of months or so? Do you find this helpful? Do you find this entertaining? Do you find this, I don't know. Well, what are your thoughts? You can either mention it now or you can send it to me and let me know what you think. If we get enough responses, and I'll get an idea of what people are interested in. And, kind of break up the monotony sometimes between either having a guest or reading cases. I did enjoy this to open this up for the audience to tell me their thoughts on a specific subject. If you got a specific subject that you think would help us to understand more, so I mean, by presenting it in this type of forum, let me know about it. Robo 1776, maybe the original Men in Black movie scene where the aliens are monitored is relevant. Hard to tell. Burping, yes, I did find it interesting. Appreciate that. Sounds unique and different from Jose. Yes, I do agree. And let me work on a next one, and maybe we'll go into a deeper type of presentation. This was kind of a dry run tonight, but I'm pretty. Maybe we can find another way to communicate better or to interact much easier uh, through this type of form. Anything else, folks? Okay. Well, again, I want to thank you all for coming in here tonight and participating. I found it very interesting, and hopefully, this is something we can expound on and give others a chance in the future. I want to thank each one of you for watching and chatting, and if you donate, it's truly appreciated. Your support's what makes all this possible. So please like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends about this. Bring them in, drag them over to YouTube, and have them become part of the chat crew. I think we got a very good group of people who are regularly in the chat. Now, if you have a sighting or encounter report that you'd like to be considered for the personal report show, or even post on Phantoms and Monsters, feel free to forward to my email at lonstrickler@phantomsandmonsters.com. So until we meet again, stay healthy and safe. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Friday night. Good night.